What's up, everybody? Welcome back to season 6 of Another Turnover. Did you miss me? Folks, I am so excited to be back. I'm very excited. I missed talking hoops, giving horrible takes, but most importantly, most of all, I missed you and your beautiful faces. But I'm very excited to be back. Obviously, a lot has happened in the offseason that we're going to get into, but I think it's going to be a great season. The NBA season is always full of excitement and great moments and drama. My wife and I earlier today were just watching Starting Five, Season 2. You know, Tyrese Halliburton, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Kevin Durant. Like, the NBA is always full of drama, and I'm here for it. But, I think it's going to be a great season for the NBA, a great season of Another Turnover. I have some segment ideas, some new ideas, more fun elements for the show. Now, whether I actually implement these ideas that I have right up here, right off the dome, that's another story. But we'll just wing it. That's usually how I end up doing things, and more often than not, it ends up working out. But I'm so excited to be back. To my loyal listeners and viewers, thank you so much for being back. But I'm looking forward to a great season 6. But enough of all that sappy stuff. Let's just jump right into it. So, like I just alluded to earlier, the offseason, we got to talk about what happened over the offseason. I essentially want to zero in on some of the biggest moves of the NBA offseason, and then who I felt were, winners and losers. Basically, who I thought had a good offseason and the team I thought had a not so good offseason. I basically need to trim it down to, I'll do 1 and 1 who I felt, was really good, and one who I felt was not so good, because I tend to talk a lot, as you already know. But let's talk about some of the biggest moves that happened during the offseason. So the biggest one I have right here, Miles Turner of the Pacers, formerly of the Pacers, is now a Milwaukee Buck. In the offseason, Miles Turner signed with the Milwaukee Bucks, which I felt was wild when the news dropped earlier over the summer. They had just come off a improbable run to the NBA Finals. I don't care what you say. Even the fans in Indiana were probably at least skeptical that the Indiana Pacers were going to make it to the finals. But most people did not have the Indiana Pacers coming out of the Eastern Conference. Now, I know there are a lot of different reasons for why that happened, which I won't necessarily get into. Got to give credit where credit is due. The Indiana Pacers did a really solid job and had an improbable run. But Miles Turner was a large part of why the Pacers ended up making the finals. Ultimately, they obviously fell to the Oklahoma City Thunder in a great 7-game series. Had Tyrese Halliburton not got hurt in that Game 7, I'm not saying the outcome would have been different, but I'm saying I think it would have been a different game, but I digress. But Miles Turner, as long as I can remember, has been in trade rumors. I think Miles Turner has basically been in the trade rumor mill since LeBron was on the Cavaliers, I think. So I was shocked that the Pacers actually ended up just letting him walk. It was, widely expected that he was going to re-sign with the Pacers, since, like I said, they had just made it to the NBA Finals. But he signed a 4-year, $107 million deal with the Milwaukee Bucks. So that was pretty shocking. But I think this next trade raised even more eyebrows, probably in a good way. But the Houston Rockets traded for all-star forward Kevin Durant. So if you were following along last year, Kevin Durant's name came up in trade talks not long before the deadline that, Phoenix wanted to move on from him and things like that. So it was no surprise that the Phoenix Suns ended up moving off of KD over the summer. But the Suns made, when I was doing my research for the show, I didn't realize this, the Phoenix Suns made the first ever 7-team trade in NBA history, which I'm not going to list all the teams that were involved in that trade, but how complex is that? 7 teams in one trade? But the Rockets sent Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, the number 10 overall pick in the 2025 NBA draft, and multiple second-round picks to the Phoenix Suns for Kevin Durant. So Kevin Durant is now in Houston. He also just the other day, depending on when you're listening to this, I think it's about 3 or 4 days ago, signed a 2-year, $90 million extension to stay with the Houston Rockets. So that also includes a player option, essentially meaning that he can opt out of that contract after the 2027-2028 season. I also took a look. So after KD signed this extension, he is now the highest paid player ever in terms of total contract worth. I want to say he's at like 500 and it was either 590 something or 580 in terms of the value of his contract in his career. And I believe LeBron is second and Steph Curry is third, which comes as no surprise, right? The old heads, they've gotten maxes and super maxes over the course of their career. But nonetheless, Kevin Durant signing a 2-year, $90 million extension to stay with the Rockets. And as much as it pains me to say, the Rockets are going to be a contender in the West yet again. Unfortunately, they are going to be a contender. If they don't at least make it to the Western Conference Finals, most Rockets fans would probably agree that the season would be a disappointment if that were the case. But they were the number 2 seed last year. It's not like they didn't make the playoffs or anything like that last year. They did lose in the first round to Golden State. Just saying. Again, couldn't get the monkey off your back. Lost to Golden State again. But I'm fine if the Rockets make the semifinals. Hopefully it's no more than that. If they make the semifinals, that's better than last year. But yeah, Kevin Durant is now in Houston. And I also was taking a look at that roster. I think it came out actually today. So I'm recording this Thursday night, but I think it came out today that Kevin Durant is going to start at the 2 guard, at shooting guard for Houston. And so the shortest player in their starting 5 is 6'8" or 6'9" or something, some absurd. It's basically Kevin Durant up all the way through their center. It's 6'11" or taller. So I'm very curious how that lineup is going to go against some small ball lineups. The Rockets got some solid defenders, but nonetheless, Kevin Durant playing at the 2, crazy. But other big piece of offseason move, obviously this was widely speculated, but Cooper Flag was drafted by the Dallas Mavericks. After trading Luka Doncic last year, the Mavericks won the lottery. Literally, they had a 1.8% chance to win the lottery and were awarded the number 1 pick in the draft. Now, like I said, they traded away Luka Doncic to the Lakers of all teams. No other teams got a chance to bid for Luka Doncic, and the Dallas Mavericks get the number 1 pick with 1.8% odds chance of winning the lottery. You don't find that suspicious? Now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but nonetheless, the consensus number 1 pick, the widely speculated number 1 pick was going to be Duke guard/forward Cooper Flag, and that's obviously who the Dallas Mavericks took. So big expectations for Flag and the Mavericks, especially when Kyrie comes back from his ACL injury. And with, AD, you got Clay and the rest of the crew. They'll be expected to make some noise. Obviously, make the playoffs, I would imagine. And how can expectations not be high, among Mavericks fans after trading Luka Doncic, a generational player? He had, not last season, but the season before last, had just taken them to the NBA Finals, of course, losing to the Boston Celtics. How can you not have big expectations? Will it be fair for some fans to put some of those expectations they had on Luka, on Cooper Flag in the early part of his career? No, absolutely not. It's not going to be fair per se. But I can imagine that some Dallas fans will feel, hey, we made the finals with Luka Doncic, so we expect you, Cooper, to lead us there as well sooner rather than later. But we shall see what ends up happening. Obviously, the Spurs fan in me, the Spurs are my number 1. I'm a diehard Spurs fan. I don't want the Mavericks to do well. Obviously I want everybody to stay healthy, want everybody to, be able to stay on the court, but I don't want them to do well, but we shall see. We shall see what ends up happening. But now let's switch gears just a little bit in the same realm of the offseason and free agency. I just want to talk about who I thought had the, arguably the best offseason and then arguably the worst offseason. So the team I felt overall won the offseason or won free agency was the Denver Nuggets. Definitely very high on the Denver Nuggets going into the 2025-2026 season, but they added solid shooting with Cam Johnson from the Brooklyn Nets, traded sharpshooter Michael Porter Jr. over to the Brooklyn Nets. They also added Tim Hardaway Jr. on a veteran minimum deal, which was pretty astounding how that happened. I'm not 100% sure because Tim Hardaway Jr. definitely should have got some more money from somebody else, but I don't know if he waited too long or however the case was, but added Tim Hardaway Jr., another solid shooter on a veteran minimum deal. They got back Bruce Brown, who was an integral piece in their 2023 championship run. He is now back in Denver. And they also got a backup center for Jokic, and none other than Jonas Valanciunas, who has started on multiple teams. I think he started for the Pelicans at some point. I think he started for way back when the Toronto Raptors. He is very solid. I would say he's a decent starter, but a very solid backup. Like I said, started on a few teams in his NBA career. So I felt overall that the Denver Nuggets won the offseason. I think they've put themselves in position to make another deep run, obviously led by multiple-time MVP Nikola Jokic. You still got Jamal Murray, and you still got Christian Brown. I think Christian Brown just got an extension for $125 million, I think for 5 years, if I'm not mistaken, today, which is crazy money for a role player. But hey, get your bag, brother. I ain't mad at you. But I think the Denver Nuggets are well suited to make a deep run in the playoffs this upcoming season. But on the flip side of that, the team I felt had the worst offseason was the Boston Celtics. Now, if you've been a fan of the show for a while, you know the Boston Celtics are my second favorite team. I like to say my backup team, my favorite Eastern Conference team, with Spurs being number one overall, but Boston Celtics are my favorite Eastern Conference team. And there's a bit of an asterisk here just because obviously Tatum is out. Unlikely he'll play this season. More on that in just a little bit. But Tatum, if you remember in last year's Eastern Conference semifinals, tearing his Achilles. So, nobody's expecting Tatum to play at all this year. But the Boston Celtics basically just made a bunch of moves to stay away from that dreaded second apron or salary cap penalties, as simple as I can put it. Everybody this summer was talking about second apron this, second apron that, second apron. But the Celtics roster, unfortunately, took a major hit this summer. I mean, you've got major players, key players gone to that team. Kristaps Porzingis, he ain't there anymore. Drew Holiday, he's back in Portland. You've got Luke Cornett, who actually my Spurs picked up, so I'm not mad about that one. He's going to be the backup to Wembanyama, which I felt was a good move for us. Bad move for the Celtics. And then you got Al Horford, who obviously is older now, but he signed with the Golden State Warriors this summer, or this fall, if I'm not mistaken, just a few weeks ago. But it's not looking good on their front court, and reportedly they are still in the luxury tax, the Celtics, that is, by a significant margin. When I was doing my research for the show, I want to say they're still in about $18 million in the luxury tax, which is not great, especially for the roster they got. The only additions, they got Anthony Simons, who I like, from Portland, but he's not a needle mover. He's not someone who's, I think going to, for lack of a better term, move the needle in a significantly positive direction for the Boston Celtics. No shade against Anthony Simons, just it is what it is. But Jay King, writer from The Athletic, considers this upcoming season a bit of a gap year for the Celtics. And I agree. There's no realistic championship expectations for the Celtics this year, but I'm holding out hope for a playoff run. Like I mentioned, Jason Tatum earlier tearing his ACL in last year's playoffs. It was reported, I want to say last week or the week before last, Tatum reportedly told the team he wants to play this year. He's already doing light basketball activities. I've seen it with my own eyes. It wasn't generative AI. It might have been, but it was on the Celtics page that he's been doing, light basketball activity. So we shall see. Tatum wants to play. I mean, prayerfully, he does not come back too early. Definitely don't want to see him, rush things. But if he is 100% healthy and ready to play at some point in this season, and he potentially even helps get the Celtics into playoff contention, that would be insane. Because, I mean, Achilles injuries, we've seen so many. We saw Damian Lillard last year. We saw Tyrese Halliburton as well. I think there was another significant player that tore his Achilles last year. But anyway, usually it's 12 to 14 months at least, sometimes up to 16 to 18 months, just depending on the rehab of the player. That if he is able to come back, if you remember, Jason Tatum got hurt in May of this year, so May of 2025. If he is able to play at some point, say like February or March, that would be incredible. Now, would that be enough time for him to help the Celtics get into playoff contention if they're not already in playoff contention? Remains to be seen, obviously. But if he comes back and plays, I think the Celtics can make some noise. But ultimately, I think the Celtics had the worst offseason of the bunch. But let's switch gears again. Let's talk about my way too early predictions for a number of different NBA awards, my finals prediction, and my finals champion prediction. It'll be very fun to look back on these 9 months-ish from now and see how terrible they are. But there's nothing too crazy here. I went pretty modest. I didn't go out on a limb, so I don't want you to expect anything crazy, any outlandish or hot takes just for the sake of doing a hot take. I'm not that type of person to just say crazy things and don't actually believe them. So everything that you're hearing from me is my full God's honest opinion. But so rookie of the year, let's start there. No surprise, right? It's Cooper Flag. Like, Cooper Flag has to win the rookie of the year. It's basically, it's his to win. Now, did I want to put Dylan Harper, the number 2 overall pick from San Antonio? Yes. Do I think Dylan Harper has a chance to win it? Of course, absolutely. But if Cooper Flag stays healthy and helps get Dallas a decent playoff spot, say they make right into the playoffs, 5 or 6 seed, no play in, and he's able to do the majority of the things that he was able to do at Duke at a decent rate here in the NBA, this award is his. Like, he's going to get it. He's going to be the next big thing, the next, guy. So, of course, I wanted to go to Dylan Harper, but I really think that Cooper Flag is going to win the rookie of the year. But speaking of the San Antonio Spurs, defensive player of the year, it's got to be Victor Wembanyama. Now, had Wemby finished last season healthy, I think he only played about 45 or 46 games, if I'm not mistaken. But had Wembanyama finished the season healthy last year, he would have won it. He would have been the defensive player of the year. And I'll go out on a limb here and say that he should have won it over Rudy Gobert his rookie year. If you remember, I believe Victor Wembanyama finished second in defensive player of the year as a rookie. He really should have won it that year, but I digress. The things he can do on the court, Wembanyama, it's just incredible. He's nicknamed the Alien for a reason. What he does on the court is truly extraterrestrial, and that wasn't AI. I wrote that one myself, but he finished last season with 11 boards, 4 blocks, and 1 steal. So Victor Wembanyama, I think he's got Defensive Player of the Year on lock. Definitely, I think, would have won it last year had he not got injured. So I'm very much looking forward to him finally getting that trophy. Again, if he stays healthy, as long as he stays healthy. But most valuable player of the year, I was going back and forth on this one. Who do I think is going to be the MVP of the 2025-2026 season? And it's got to be Nikola Jokic. Did I want to say Victor Wembanyama here for MVP and Defensive Player of the Year? Of course, but I just can't deny the greatness of Nikola Jokic, and I can't be that biased. I can be a little biased, but I can't be that biased. Averaged a triple-double last year, Nikola Jokic. shot 42% from three-point range, 57% from the field, and it just never amazes me how great of a game manager that Nikola Jokic is. I mean, he's been doing it for a while now. His dribble excuse me. His dribble handoff with Jamal Murray is a sight to behold, mainly due to Jokic's ability to beat you in a number of different ways. You take one thing away, he'll do something else. I mean, he can post up, he can knock down jumpers, he sets up his teammates like point guards do, and he can drive to the rack as well. But Nikola Jokic, I think, is going to win another MVP. That would be, is that 4 in 6 years or 4 in 7 years? I know he won back-to-back, I think lost to Embiid and then won it again. So that would make, 3 and 4. And then Shea won it last year. So I think that would be 4 and 6 if I'm not mistaken. So we shall see. But I've got Nikola Jokic winning another MVP award for the 2025-2026 season. But my NBA Finals prediction, I was going back and forth on this one as well. And I'm going to go with the Denver Nuggets coming out of the West. And I'm going to go with the New York Knicks. Now, y'all, I'm not trying to glaze the Denver Nuggets. Please don't say that. If you do, it's fine. I don't really care at the end of the day. But I think the Nuggets, I mean, I got them beating Houston in a 7-game series if they match up. I think, if you remember, they took Oklahoma City 7 games last year in the semifinal in the West. I got them beating Oklahoma City in a 7-game series they play. I got them beating Minnesota. If they end up matching up in the Western Conference playoffs, I got them beating my Spurs. I don't want them to beat the Spurs, but as it stands right now, as the rosters are constructed, I don't see anyone in the West beating the Denver Nuggets in a 7-game series. Obviously, again, that's everyone being healthy, everyone being on the court, pound for pound. I don't see anybody beating the Nuggets in a 7-game series, especially with the moves that they made this year. And then the Knicks out east, I mean, all the other teams are hurt. Celtics, got their issues. Who else? I mean, there's other teams that are dealing with some significant issues. The Sixers are always hurt, but that's a story for another day. But this is their chance. This is the chance that the Knicks can capitalize on. They added some nice role players. They got Jordan Clarkson and the dude from the French Olympic team that ended up dunking on LeBron. Is it Yabusele? I got it written down. Yabusele, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, they've got a shot. I mean, they had a shot. They went to the Eastern Conference Final last year, obviously losing to the Indiana Pacers. So they got a shot. I think the NBA would love to see the Knicks in the NBA Finals. So I think we could see it happen this year. With all the injuries and all the things that have happened to other teams, I think this is the year that the Knicks finally capitalize and get to the finals. Now, who do I think is going to win the NBA Finals? If it's a Nuggets-Knicks Finals, it's the Denver Nuggets, obviously. I know, shocking. But I'm going to go with the Nuggets in 6. Everyone being healthy, I think they handle the Knicks. Not necessarily relatively easy. I think it could be a very good series, but I would pick the Denver Nuggets to win in 6 games. But, folks, that is all the show I have for you on the season premiere. This is Season 6, Episode 1, the 94th episode overall. So I won't be doing a show this Friday, the 24th, since we're having the show on Tuesday. So the next time I'll see you will be next Friday. That is the 31st, Halloween. We'll be talking about reactions to the first week of games. I'll talk about marquee matchups and how that's going to look slightly different this year, and much, much more here on Another Turnover. But that is all the show I have for you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. As I always say, if you could do all the good things, like, share, subscribe, leave comments, follow at Another Turnover on all the socials, I would greatly appreciate it. But enjoy opening week of the season. Opening week is always super fun. I'm very much looking forward to the matchups across multiple networks now. It is going to be good. It's going to be very good. But be sure to stay safe, take care, and I will see you next week. Peace.